no matter where you are in your journey, whether you are 1 year in, 3 years in, 5 years in, the first thing I tell you is this is a marathon, not a sprint. You're going to be in a place, whether it's an exhibit floor, whether it's a conference
Mhm.
auditorium room, you're going to see, hear from, and bump into, introduce yourself to a lot of people who are in decision
Mhm.
making roles. When you first meet them, they may not have an opportunity for you. When you first meet them, they may not tell you what you want to hear. But what you have just done is made an introduction and created a relationship that you can
Mhm.
foster until you're ready for that
Mhm.
opportunity.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's segment right here on the Product and Packaging Powerhouse. I am your show host, Tired Mama, Megan Young Gamble, and Chief Project Officer at GLC, your packaging and project execution team for health, beauty, and wellness brands. And I'm so excited to have our feature powerhouse for today because with this person, we go way back, way back. And not like the way back like 3, 5 years ago, like way back like 20, 23, 24 years.
20
Yeah,
plus.
like we go
20 plus.
way back, like knew me in my teens back. Okay. And so
Yeah.
for today's feature powerhouse guest, I have the honor and privilege of having Mr. Marc Winston, who is the Senior Director of Affiliate and Corporate Programs at NMSDC. We're going to get into what that means. And he is also a
Yeah.
consultant through his own practice, Marc Winston Enterprises, where he is talk about the guru, the powerhouse around supplier inclusion, diversity, and business development. He has had countless speaking engagements from WBENC, I saw him last year, to NMSDC, to other organizational conferences, to him having his own practice where he is making sure that he is providing resources, providing value, and also the necessity as to why brands, companies alike should be having an inclusive supplier and diversity supply chain, and also what that means for their organization. So we're going to have him talk about himself and how he got into the space. But before we do so, make sure y'all give a warm welcome to my guest, Mr. Marc Winston. So Marc, welcome to the house.
Myself a round
Hey.
of applause on that one. Thank you for the intro. Thank you so much for having me, Megan. This is truly what they call it, full circle, coming full circle from where we started and knowing each other as children, like literally kids, to come into the business world, the
Yeah.
professional world, crossing paths unplanned in the professional
Yeah.
world, uh, seeing each other flourish and grow, and then being able to come here and talk with you on this amazing platform that you have set up. This product and packaging powerhouse. You are truly a powerhouse. So thank you so much for inviting me. And it's a pleasure to be here
Oh,
with you
I
today.
appreciate that. And guys, okay, so I have to give you context as to how me and Marc go way back. Because when he said we've known each other as children, and when I say the teens, I mean just that. So Marc and I know each other from back in the Rock, as we call it, from Little Rock, Arkansas. And we went to high school
Yeah.
together, The View, which is Parkview Arts and Science Magna High School.
Okay.
Okay, shout out to our alma mater. And so I met Marc when I was in ninth grade, and he's a year ahead of me, 10th grade. And we found,
Yep.
I think we first met each other at gym with with Coach. Okay, and you had
Yeah.
Coach Claiborne and then Coach Flanagan and being Jim, and that's how we hit it off. Marc was one of the big powerhouses playing basketball, playing football there. I think you did something with track and field, from what I recall. It's been 23 years,
Yeah. I was
but
on the
I
track
remember
team for a
basketball and
second.
football exclusively because I remember you went to college, did the same thing, and now you're coaching youth football. So it's full circle. So I had to add some context as to how we knew each other because If you've been rocking with me on the podcast and listened to our prior segments, I talk about how I'm from Little Rock, Arkansas, the Rock as we call it, and the humble beginnings that have led me to this space. So me and Mark have some humble beginnings, growing up in the Rock, and now being here and, like you said, a full circle moment to see how our careers have flourished and we've reconnected, after this time too, is amazing. So I'm so honored to have you, and I appreciate those kind words you mentioned about me, Mark. So it's mutual, and the respect is definitely there.
Thank
So
you.
without further
Thank you.
ado, let's put some respect on your name and share with the audience who you are, your experience, your background, because you come from corporate America, okay, working in
Yeah.
logistics, transportation for one of the largest retail stores. You can talk about it if you like to, and how you evolved
Yeah.
into your role today.
Yeah. So, like I said, Mark Winston, and I am an Arkansas native. A lot of people don't know I was born in a small town called Marianna, Arkansas, but where I met you was me growing up in Little Rock. And so I was in sports early, got introduced to sports early. I think it really helped to develop a lot of my personality and kind of who I am today, with some of that structure and discipline. So, coming out of Parkview, I was on the science side. And so I tell people when you go to Parkview on the science side, you take every math and science known to man. And thankfully, I had parents that really instilled a real discipline about education to me. So I was able to get a football scholarship where I was allowed to play football and basketball. I went to the University of Arkansas at Fayetteville, stayed there from '04 to '06, and then finished up at UCA in Conway, the University of Central Arkansas. And at both locations, my major was business management. I actually started off in transportation and logistics at the
Really?
U of A. And then, yeah, transportation and logistics is what I declared my freshman year. So I'm talking about from the jump, I kind of knew the avenue and lane I wanted to be in. And then from there, when I transferred to UCA, they didn't have T-Log. They didn't have transportation logistics, but all but six of my credits transferred over to be a business management and marketing major. And so I did that and actually graduated on time, even losing six credits. So I graduated on time, business management, marketing, took a heavy finance load as well. So when I came out, tried to do the ball thing, went to some workouts, went to some camps, and things did the NFL life didn't quite work out like I thought to. As I say, I had a cup of coffee there. But then once I get into the working world, I started in finance, retail
Oh, wow.
finance, actually working in Arvest Bank, and I was trying to get into some personal banking and some other things with finance just because numbers were easy. My mom had been in finance forever. So I was like, I'm going to do this finance thing. And I remember being in Little Rock, driving past Stevens Inc. investment firm, and saying, I'm going to work there one day, just on a whim, nice building downtown. I see people walk in, look all nice and dressed up. I'm going to work there one day. Well, 2011, I actually started working at Stevens Inc. and working in investments. And so I did that for a while. And then I'll be honest, finance comes natural. I like it, but just looking at those numbers every day can be mundane. That's the word I use, mundane. I'm at a TCU versus Baylor football game one Saturday, talking to an old mentor of mine, Marcus Showtime Campbell from North Little Rock. And Miss Dee Dee Brown was working at Baylor at the time. So I'm at the game and we have a conversation. He turns, Mark, what did you major in? I told him what I majored in. I talked about transportation logistics. He turns around casually and says, I know somebody in transportation, and just shuts up. I'm like, hey, who? Like, what are you talking about? He was like, I know Gino Bell,
Mhm.
former Razorback. So I was like, man, give me his information. So to make this long story short, I ended up reaching out to Gino. He gave me some tidbits, told me some jobs to look for and apply for. I go out, I apply, I hear nothing for like a
Mhm.
month or two. I'm back to my normal day. Like, okay, that thing is gone. All of a sudden, I get a call from Robert Appleby, HR at Walmart, after like a month and a half, almost 2 months. He called me on a Tuesday, set up an interview for Wednesday, had a second interview on Thursday. I had the job on Friday. I moved to Bentonville the
I know that's
next
right.
week. I'm talking about happened just like that. I came to work at Walmart. I started off in transportation, literally dispatching the Walmart trucks, entry level management work. Talk about getting out the
Mhm.
mud, the grind. Entry level dispatch those trucks you see going down the highway with the big Walmarts. I was dispatching those. I did that for about 8 months to 8 to 10 months, and then I got promoted to ops manager. And I moved all through transportation into supply chain. And so I got into supply chain, working with suppliers, still working with transportation, working within our network of DCs. Uh, and then I had a couple projects. I had a couple projects where I worked with business strategy, supply chain strategy. I worked with direct imports. I mean, getting things off the
Mhm.
water, dredge into our network, that whole thing. And so I'm doing this. I'm still working. I go back to working with our vendors and things of that nature. And I say, hey, I think I want to be a merchant, but I don't want to just jump off the porch and just go be a merchant. I want to learn a little bit more what they do. Let me find a role that kind of coincides with them. And Megan, we talk about how things happen when you don't plan them and it just happens and
Yeah.
falls in your lap. This job popped up called Supplier Diversity, and it was a promotion for me. It was a senior manager role. And I said, let me talk to someone. I talked to a lady named Marquita Brown, who was in that same role. We sat and had lunch and we talked about it. I applied and I got this job because in supplier diversity, you work hand in hand. I will call it parallel with merchants and
Mhm.
procurement managers. So you're right there working close to them. I said, this is the perfect view for me to understand if I want to be a merchant. Make a long story short, I fell in love with the practice of supplier
Wow.
diversity, supplier inclusion. I had no clue. I didn't plan on it. I didn't know it was going to happen. But working in supplier inclusion, working with everything from major corporations to emerging brands to first day entrepreneurs, understanding the power of
Mhm.
access, understanding the power of scalability, and understanding what that comes with, that's what drew me to it and kept me in that role. I had several, I think I had six promotions through my time in Walmart, six or seven. And that was the longest tenure I stayed because in one position because I just loved what I did, helping people. It's really about the stories
Yeah.
behind
Yeah.
the company. You see the company names, oh, I sell soap or I clean, I paint buildings or I do construction, and that's cool. But the impact that these people have in their communities, the
Mhm.
jobs that they create, the communities that they impact, the representation that they represent, that became a passion. I'm a minority, I'm an African American man. And so when I start to deal with all these different diverse companies and understanding their whys, why did you start this company? Why are you still fighting through? Why didn't you give up when you failed and had that setback? Those are the things that helped me get up every day and go to work. And that's why when I left Walmart in 2024, the year before I had started my own company, Marc Winston Enterprises LLC, mainly for my speaking engagements and also some NIL management that I was preparing to do for college athletes. But I started that in 2023. 2024 comes, and here I am trying to make that decision. Do I step away from corporate America? Do I take a chance? And I decided to lean into it. Leaned into Marc Winston Enterprise LLC, leaning into consulting, leaning into some of my relationships and my network that I had kind of built up
Mhm.
over the years. And that's how I came across NMSDC, the National Minority Supplier Development Council. They became on and brought me on as a member engagement
Nice.
consultant. And I did that because I had already worked with that company I was at Walmart for
Mhm.
almost 12 years. I worked with that company during that time. I've worked with WBENC and other NGOs, non-government organizations, but they reached out to me at a time where I needed them as much as
Yeah.
they needed me. And it was a true marriage of just passions. And I came on as member engagement consultant. And then recently I have been brought on to be senior director of affiliate and corporate programming. And that's how I am where I am today. I still consult and work with other companies to help them understand supplier diversity, to grow in business development, access, and referrals. I also, during that entire time, tried to stay close to the game that gave me so much,
Yeah.
football and basketball, to the point where now I'm coaching uh, grassroots basketball for Nike programs. I've been working with Nike programs in Texas, like Pro Skills and Houston Hoops, on the EYBL circuit, Elite Youth Basketball League circuit, that is sponsored by Nike. And that's where I really get my release and my passion on those long weeks or when work is heavy or life is overwhelming, to be in the gym with these kids, helping them reach their goals, very similar to what I
Yeah.
do in my work life, helping people reach their goals and chase whatever passion they have. That's why I do what I do, and I'm able to do it on and off the court in my personal and in my business life. And so I thank the good Lord for the
Mhm.
ability to do the things that I do and be who I am because I'm truly
Oh,
blessed in this
amen,
fashion.
amen, amen.
Hey, we'll say that's a
Look at
shouting
Mark
moment right
say,
there. Huh?
Amen.
Yes,
Amen.
that's a shouting
Okay,
moment right there.
listen, and I
Yes.
love that. And listeners and viewers, you hear Mark's experience and how he evolved within his journey with Walmart. So going from first off, I want to talk about how you initially declared a major with transportation and logistics as a freshman to
Mm-hmm.
then coming full circle
Mm-hmm.
to have it be your starter entry level job, respectively, at Walmart, the largest retailer there is. And then your evolution within there to land in supplier diversity, I think is amazing. And it also goes to show you that there's no definite journey, from point A to point B. Sometimes
Correct.
we have to take different detours to get to the destination. Check out my episode, Detour to Destination episode. Because at the end of the
Mm-hmm.
day, a lot of us have these detours, and in life there is no straight path. We have to take detours to get to the alternative route. We have speed bumps, we have potholes. Atlanta has a lot of potholes. They busting tires out here. Okay. um we have yield signs, we have traffic build up, but I'm saying all that to say, like, there sometimes we have to enjoy the journey and look at how far we've come to appreciate where we go to. So like you said, you're grateful for where the Lord has blessed you to be at now, and the ability to do what you do is
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
And so I want to
Yeah.
ask you, because you talked about with your now role at National Minority Supplier Diversity Council, Development Council.
Development
Thank you for
council.
correcting me. You
Yeah. You gotta say it together like a tribe called Quest. It's like NMSDC. You just gotta say it together like a
don't have me
tribe called
listen.
Quest.
Let me say
Just
it
say it.
slow, because like I tell you, I'm a tired mama right now who's working off of a
Yeah.
1 hour sleep in the past 24 hours. So let me say it slow and then I'll say it fast. Okay. So NMSDC. There we go. I had to say it at
Bam.
least once to get it second time. Okay.
There you
Then
go.
third time's a charm. So since you had
Yeah.
a lot of experience within supplier diversity, you consult brands and companies, through your company, Marc Winston Enterprises, and with you being at NMSDC, you talk about you really help cultivate and really educate startup brands, emerging brands, and companies alike about the power of access and scalability. So,
Mm-hmm.
from your
Mm-hmm.
experience, what are some of the key things you share with these brands and companies alike about what the power of access can do for them? Let's start there.
Yeah. I think when we talk about the power of access, and I tie it into, you know, access, advocating, and
Mm,
advancing supplier diversity or supplier inclusion, or just advocating, creating access, and advancing companies through whatever lane they want to do. What I usually share with people is this: understand your brand, be knowledgeable about your industry, and be intentional about where you want to go. And a lot of times when we talk about knowing your industry, that means those people that you might call competitors. You have to study them, you have to
mhm,
know them. I worked with Walmart, and when you read Mr. Sam's book, he talks about stealing
mhm,
shamelessly. And when I first started and I first read that book, I was like, what do you mean? But he would literally go into a store, a competitor's store, and look at something that they're doing, like end caps. That was something he saw someone do and he implemented into his stores. It's the same no matter what you're doing. If you're doing shrink wrap, if you're doing marketing, if you're selling baby oils, if you're selling lotion, there's a lot of competitors. Study them, study their packaging, their presentation, those things. So what I tell people is know your
mhm,
industry. The other thing is I tell people about if you want access, you have to know where you want to go. Who do I partner with? That's why we talk a lot about
mhm,
certification. Uh, Supplier inclusion is really based around the diverse certifications that fall in certain demographics. So you have the minority owned businesses, you have women owned businesses, you have veterans, you have disabilities, people with disabilities, you have uh, veterans with disabilities in the
mhm,
LGBTQ community. Each of these demographics have several NGOs or organizations that are there for them that are also certify them as diverse. That's one of the key things I say about access. Because yes, everybody can go to anybody's page and you can apply to be a supplier and you can fill in all the information. So you can go to those portals, and that is perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with that. I
yeah.
encourage you to do that. But everybody needs somebody looking out for them. Everybody needs somebody that is advocating for them. And that's when a strong supplier inclusion practitioner is working within their organization to ensure that organization is creating access for everyone. And we know in today's time, there is a true attack on DEI is the term that's being used, and that really talks to the workforce. But there are some collateral damage vibes and conversations and narratives that are getting into
Mm-hmm.
supplier diversity as well. So although the attack on DEI that is mainstream has really hit the workforce, the supplier side of it affects these corporations, because when you start to talk about the expansion of that DEI focus, hitting grants and access to capital that is attacking or impacting these corporations, now it's starting to affect the access or ability for them to create access for companies. So one of the things I would say is non-government organizations like NMSDC, like WBENC, like Novova, like several others, uh, NGLCC, these organizations are there to help you, because what they allow is the access to these practitioners that are working inside these corporations that are trying to let you know,
Mm-hmm.
here's where we're going. Here's what it takes to do business with us. Here are some of the gaps we have. And once you get that information from these practitioners by way of these NGOs or by way of these connections, one thing NMSDC is great at is connecting people. We have programs, we have summits, we have meet and greets, we have all these different ways to access supplier diversity practitioners, to access procurement managers, to access corporation leaders, and think every other way you could think of getting in
Yeah.
touch with someone, we create those. And once you get that information, once they tell you what it is they're looking for, what it takes to do business with them, what the gaps are, once they tell you what they're not looking for, and the things to stay away from. If you have IT staffing and a company tells you you need nearshore, offshore, and direct hire
Yeah.
capabilities, now you know. If they tell you about the insurance for constructions, they tell you about the project management you need. If they tell you we need you to be from start to finish able to complete the whole job, now it's up
Mm-hmm.
to you to go back and do your homework and self-reflect. Do I check all those boxes? If there's 6 boxes, how many do
Yeah.
I check? That's all about access. You can't get that everywhere. Yeah, you can go and you can go out and go to the portals and go to the sites. And again, I encourage
Mm-hmm.
you to do that. But there's nothing like having someone who is advocating for you and speaking for you in rooms that you are not in. And that's where the access for supplier inclusion and these practitioners and the whole business of supplier diversity
Oh,
comes
wait,
in.
that is a whole masterclass right there. I'm serious because, like, for startup brands, that I work with, they're like, I'm thinking about getting the certification, and I tell them that's great and all, about. I'm like, okay, let's roll it back. What's the why? Like you mentioned earlier, where are you going? What is the trajectory or the vision of the business? Who are your competitors? Because I need a competitive analysis done by you first to know who you're competing with, where are they selling the product, the price point, the price per fluid ounces, what type of ingredients, what type of packaging is it, to know what we should be
Yep.
recommending in the partners, suppliers, access, tapping
Yep.
into our network to then know how we can advocate for you with negotiations, whatever the case may be. It's so, guys, we're saying the same things from our respective business sectors. And so it's so much that you just put into that. That's what, like, that's a whole masterclass. So Marcos Enterprise, that's the
It really is.
masterclass. But what you mentioned in reference of the access, the avocation, and also advancing the brands and companies alike, I want to ask you, how can companies and brands really leverage or really start to cultivate that relationship with the supply diversity, inclusion practitioners that are there to help advocate for the brands?
So I'll say this: no matter where you are in your journey, whether you are 1 year in,
Mm-hmm.
3 years in, 5 years in, the first thing I tell you is this is a marathon, not a sprint. You're going to be in a place, whether it's an exhibit floor, whether it's a conference
Mm-hmm.
auditorium room, you're going to see, hear from, and bump into, introduce yourself to a lot of people who are in decision
Mm-hmm.
making roles. When you first meet them, they may not have an opportunity for you. When you first meet them, they may not tell you what you want to hear, but what you have just done it's made an introduction and created a relationship that you can
Mm-hmm.
foster until you're ready for that opportunity. One of the biggest professional services, diverse companies at Walmart, by the time I left in 2024, they were the biggest in that segment. It took them 3 years to get
Mm-hmm.
on with Walmart. 3 years of no, not right now. 3 years of 3 years of I don't think this. Go back, fix this, present me with this. So you talk about the partnership, and I think about relationships. That's the word I like to call it. Stay in
Mm-hmm.
contact. Reach out and share your progress. If you meet Marc Winston, who's a supplier inclusion
Yeah.
manager at Walmart, and I meet you on the exhibit floor of NMSDC's national conference, and you tell me you have this product or this service, and I say, oh, we're not looking for that right now, but here's my information, take it down, here's the pamphlet, go to those portals that people hate, just be
Yes.
in the portal. Because there's going to come a time where someone's going to search that portal. You want to be there. You want to be visible. But here's what you can do. Here's the action you can take about fostering that relationship with these
Mm-hmm.
corporations. Reach out when you have an update. When you get a new certification or you get a new accolade or something happens or you have a growth moment,
Mm-hmm.
share it because you never know what that bit of information might signal to a procurement manager. I might have just been in a line review with a merchant telling a company, well, because you don't have X and you only have Y and Z, I
Mm-hmm.
can't do this right now. But then you send me an email just on the whim of, hey, Mark, I got X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
Bam. Let me send this over to my merchant. Don't take the right now no. Take the slow yes as a
Mm-hmm.
win. A fast no sometimes can be
Yeah.
deterring, and I know that. But foster those relationships by just keeping in contact. Now, nobody wants to be bombarded with an email every day or
Right.
a text every day. But if you do monthly, every other month, quarterly, whatever it is, just stay in contact. And occasionally, hey, Mark, want to know if there's any opportunities for this. If you get a chance to talk to a procurement manager or you have a conversation with a merchant, say you get a chance to present for one of these summits where you get a chance to talk to a merchant, they tell you no, just stay
Mm-hmm.
in contact. Take that free game, that free consultation where they tell you, hey, you don't have this, but go back and work on this. We're looking at this. Take that free consultation and go back and work on yourself. And you foster those relationships. So there's still power in those relationships, those partnerships, even when it's not a yes in the beginning. Because what happens is you want to be ready and prepared when the time
Right.
happens. There's nothing like Megan. I meet you in 2019. I come back again in 2022 and you tell me, hey, did you ever go back and fix that XYZ? Give me 6 more months. Well, I got
Yeah.
somebody who's ready now. So every interaction, whether yes or no, progress or no progress, is a moment for you to learn and foster and put in work on and in
Mm-hmm.
your business. I learned from someone a long time ago, a few years ago, a lot of people work in their business, but not on their business, and vice
Mm-hmm.
versa. So every bit of information you get, make sure you ask those questions. Hey, what is it you're looking for? But here's the gaps I
Yeah.
feel like I can do. And I tell people all the time that what are you looking for question is loaded. If you've done the research on that said company, we talked about being intentional
Yep.
about where you want to go. If I know I want to be in Walmart and I know I sell soap, I need to know every
Mm-hmm.
soap in Walmart. If I want to work for Walmart or if I want to work for Target and I know that I clean parking lots, I need to know who currently cleans the parking lots and what do I
Yep.
bring to the table that that company may not. What is my extra? What is my leverage? What is the thing that I have, my value add that they don't? So when I had that conversation with these certain practitioners and sourcing managers and marketing and merchants, I now can not only just say, I don't really care about what are you looking for,
Mm-hmm.
because I know. And I tell you, I know you guys have this soap that offers one, two, and three benefits. Well, I have one, two, three, four, five, and
Yeah.
six benefits with my soap. And I'm at this, they're at this price. My margins are here, so on
Mm-hmm.
and so forth. That's the part about being intentional. So then when I do come back for that
Yeah.
quarterly touch base, I can now tell you, hey, we've been scientifically tested to say we have this health benefit, and here's what we have different. My hand soap, my perfume, my shampoo has been tested and provides this. So when you're reaching out to this sourcing manager, this merchant that you haven't talked to in 2 months, I'm not only just saying, hey, I'm still here. I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying I'm here with this added value. And so to your initial question, That's the power of access, and that's the power of those partnerships and
Absolutely.
relationships.
And oh, that's what I'm saying. That's a whole masterclass. And I hope y'all are soaking in these gems. And make sure you do follow Marc on LinkedIn as well. He's very active. You will see how he gets engaged with organizations. He's speaking from coast to coast, north, south, east, west. Wherever you see him, he's speaking and he's dropping these gems. But to that point, he's making sure he's providing access and advocating for the brands to help them advance. So the points that he's mentioning about having knowing who your competitors are, what are their unique differentiators, what are your unique differentiators, how are you going to be different than the marketplace. And I'll be honest, I'm gonna have a moment of transparency myself, and Marc, you won't know this. So I saw Marc, we mentioned earlier at the beginning of the segment, I saw Marc at WBENC conference. First WBENC conference I'm attending. I go in high hopes, like, yeah, I got this. I own my, you know what I'm saying? I run this ish, all this stuff. Like, I've always been
Yeah,
confident,
yeah,
okay? And so, as a business owner, as a Black female business owner at that, it has to be even top notch. So, that part, top tier, okay? But I went
yeah,
there and I'm pitching my services, telling them what what I offer, XYZ. And had went to different retailers and they humbly told me, yeah, you need to work on this. Yeah, this is cute, but we need this. And so I left a
yeah.
little salty because I'm like, the hell, I know what I'm doing. But to that point, when I left and on the plane, I revisited my notes and the feedback that they gave. I immediately went into implementation and execution to update those things because
Yes,
at the end of the day, I was
yes,
initially salty, but that salt is going to turn into sugar eventually. And it made me realize I had some gaps that I did not see because I was too close to it. And I needed an unbiased
hmm,
perspective to advocate for me, to tell me what I needed to improve, what I needed, how I need to better communicate or convey our unique differentiators, who we serve, XYZ. And that way it helps with the access. So I've gone back into the supplier portals. It is a process, I'll be honest. It's a process,
yes.
but I've gone back in to update my company information, to update our unique differentiators, to showcase, yeah, our unique differentiator is a 360-degree perspective on the packaging life cycle from end to end versus just having one sole focus on just technical development, on just packaging sourcing. We do it all. And what that means for it, which is focused on sustainability with our efforts. So hearing Marc say that and me just sharing my moment of transparency validates what Marc is saying, with the access and
Yeah,
advocating and really know where you're going. And so as part of that, since I am part of WeBank, it's an NGO, and you have NMSDC, one of another certification platform. I want to ask you, Marc, people talk about certifications, and you talked about that when
yeah.
when brands and founders should be reaching back out, based upon the recommended cadence you gave to say, hey, I have a new certification, hey, I made this update, etc. I want to hear from your perspective the power of a certification exclusively through NMSDC and how brands should really be using the certification to help them with access.
So listen, I like to say this: certification is like a passport. It doesn't guarantee the
Mm,
trip, but it opens the
okay.
doors. It's an opportunity for you to have a place to go where you know the simple mission of this place is to connect you with the right people. I think about NMSDC. Now, let me first just say this. I love
Yeah,
WeBank. I have worked close with WeBank. I've been on the board of some regional partners of WeBank, and WeBank does amazing. I'm gonna speak from NMSDC standpoint just right now
absolutely.
because that's where my help. That's where my help come
Don't,
from.
don't mess.
So,
Listen, don't mess up the help, okay? I am not liable.
yeah, so
I
that's
am
where
not
my
paying
help
no
comes from.
bills based upon your conversation here, okay?
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. So I talk about the power of connecting. And certification is this: when you get that certification, although there's a lot of tools and
Mm,
resources out there, when you get that certification, you now have the power and the resources of that organization behind you. They're intentionally reaching out to you and say, hey, we have this meet and greet every month. And here's, if you sign up, we have people that are visible of what you present for your company and will reach out to have meet and greets with you. We have the national conference. We have this forum. We have this information. We have this platform, this program that you can invest in to learn. Organizations like NMSDC are constantly looking at programming and education. What can we give to our MBEs? What can we give to our corporations to equip them to be better at what they do? What can we give to MBEs to make them scalable? What we're surveying. What are you all missing? What do you all need? They might tell you we need industry specific information and education. Well, I just happen to wear a lot of hats at NMSDC that I kind of skipped over a little bit. Uh, I wear the hat where I am a liaison for all of our 23 regional
Mm.
partners. I am the NMSDC lead for our Global Link program that works with 8 global partners, three global strategic partners, and we are in several markets and working to expand those markets. I also lead our industry group chairpersons. So all those 17, 18 specific industry groups that NMSDC has, each one has a chair and vice chair, and I work with them. I also work with our Supplier Diversity Advisory Council at
Mm.
NMSDC. So here we are with corporations and practitioners telling us the best practices for boots on the ground practice. I also am a part of our Business Diversity Leadership Summit Council and the planning committee and leading that focus where we give back to our corporations and their practitioners to equip them with tools to do their
Mm.
job better and equip them with information that helps them keep their license to operate. So when we are talking about certification, there's intention behind these organizations that are in the sole purpose is to help you grow and make the right connections. Now, I say, well, I haven't gotten any ROI on this. Again, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And I always say to people, what are you
Mm.
putting in? Because sometimes people want it to be a pool where information is, or no, I'm sorry, they want it to be a push where information is pushed to them. And there'll be some, but you have to go and pull. Are you aware? Are you asking questions? For NMSDC, MBEs have a contact person, corporations have engagement ambassadors. There's someone there to help you and keep you in the know of what's available to you. So I would say this the power of these organizations and certification is there's not a lot of places you can go where there are hundreds of corporations waiting
Yeah.
to hear from you. Like you said, you went to WBENC and you see that exhibit floor, and there are hundreds of corporations there with booths and decision makers and people who are educated in your industry
Yeah.
ready to talk to you. You don't get that access without those organizations, without that certification. And even for those who pay who might not be certified to go to those conferences, the follow up programs that are built from
Mm.
that, the other standard education that is set up to be pushed to you. You don't get that education unless you're certified and you're a part of
Sure.
those ecosystems. So when we talk about this, supply diversity became a true KPI. Being certified as minority owned or woman owned increases your visibility, your trust factor, and your access to exclusive programs. And I think that is what you get from that certification. Yeah, you can go do all this other stuff and you can go and be in these industry groups that are not a part of NGOs. You can be a part of these discussion boards and these other organizations that might help you meet people. But what's wrong with having a little bit more intentionality about your
Mm.
ecosystem? What's adding to your network? Like I said, when I stepped away from corporate America, I didn't understand how strong my network was until this showed up
Mm-hmm.
and showed out. And what I tell people is truly take advantage of every opportunity and every platform, especially these certified organizations, because their sole purpose is to help MBEs, WBEs, VBEs,
Yeah.
DOBEs to advance and connect to the right people to build your company, your scalability, and your knowledge. It's just the intentionality that you can't
Yeah.
get
And
anywhere
that's
else.
and when you say it like that, it's just like a relationship, friendship, whatever that may look like for you. You know, if you're only expecting to only receive and that person is always giving,
Yeah,
they're gonna be like, I've given you everything I got. Like, I don't have anything
yeah,
else. But
yeah,
you're not reciprocating it back to me. So to your point, being intentional about, the connections, because our net worth is based upon our network. You know that firsthand. Okay.
yes, indeed.
And for
Amen.
myself too, like I've reached out to people I didn't even know. Hey, you don't know me, but I know you. I call you my virtual mentor, whoever. I tell y'all about my whole story on the prior podcast, Detour to Destination.
Yeah.
I'm so candid about it and so unapologetic about it too, because to that point, if we know where we're going, like Mark says, the transportation, where we're going, and we understand our why, that can open us up to the access. If we are intentional about partnering with the practitioners in our network that can help advocate for us to advance, like you see how all of this comes back hand in hand, and it's to Mark's point, that ecosystem that we're cultivating. And even for
Mhm.
myself, as a Black woman led organization in business, I'm looking at certifications. How does this differentiate us from the market? How does this give us a unique position, for us, like with WeBank, NMSDC, Women on Small Business, and more. So I am doing the exact same thing, guys, that Mark is mentioning, because at the end of the day,
Mhm.
I have to be intentional about where I'm trying to go and the big goals I have. And y'all know I talk about I have a whole child now. And baby girl is eating. Okay? Baby girl is eating at almost 4 months. She eating. She gonna out eat the
Yes.
whole house. But
Yes.
shout out to my baby girl Maya.
Yes.
But to that point,
Yeah. Man.
there's a lot of things that we all have to be intentional about and really think about. But at the end of the day, like you said, certification is like the passport. It doesn't guarantee the trip, it just gives you access to it. So I love how you
Yeah.
position that. And we're going to add that into the show notes as one of our top phrases, too. Because a lot of people have the
Exactly.
misconception that certifications will help you do XYZ, like, oh, I'm gonna get certified. So that means that you're gonna give me automatic access to these companies. You're going to give me access to be at the table to pitch myself. And I'm sure you see that all the time, and the misconceptions about what certifications can do as well. So I'm going to ask it,
Yeah.
continue on with it. I'm going to ask it as a question based upon your experience, working at Walmart to now working with NMSDC. There we go. What are the misconceptions people, brands, founders, companies alike have about certifications?
Yeah. I think the biggest one is that, oh, it guarantees a contract or it guarantees ROI. It does not. It gives you a seat at the table. It's not the deal, but it gives you a opportunity to have the access to those who can make it
Mhm.
happen for you. You still need to bring competitive pricing. You still need to have strong
Mhm.
execution. You still need to have a unique value proposition. There's many times where I was in the corporate world and I sat at the table with a merchant or a procurement manager, and we're in front of someone and they're leading with simply, hey, I'm minority owned and this is my background and I've been certified this amount of years. And don't get me wrong, that's great. Your why is a part of
Mhm.
that pitch. I've been talking high level, but there are some X's and O's executions that you can do when you're in front of the right
Okay.
decision maker. But one of the main things you have to do is not have this myth or misconception of being certified guarantees this. No, you still need to be able to present that value add that makes you a competitive supplier or provider. So don't come in thinking because you get certified, it's instant. You still have to work. This is just the platform you use. And I'll tell this to anyone, I talked about the time and not taking that initial note. It might take some years, but also you have to have that candid two-way conversation with your organization, the NMSDCs. Hey, I'm trying to do this. What do you have that can
Mhm.
help me with this? What do you have that can teach me this? Or can you develop this? Same thing when you're working with merchants or procurement
Mhm.
managers, sourcing managers. It's okay to be transparent with them and say, hey, listen, I have this. I can't handle 1,500 stores. I'm looking at 200 or maybe being regional. This is my reach. This is my scale, my scope. So don't let the misconception of I get certified, I get business. You still have to put in the work. And that's usually the biggest thing. The other thing I think that people say is, oh, it costs so much money to be certified. I'll say this, depending on where you are, but there are a lot of very affordable certifications that are
Mhm.
out there for you. And a lot of these corporations recognize national, these NGOs, they recognize state, federal, local certifications. If you have a Southern California certification, or if you have a East Detroit
Yeah.
certification, as long as it is validated by that city, state, it is people recognize that. So I think that's one of the things that people have to really understand that just because you get certified, Now you have access to resources and tools, but the knowledge is there for you to take and put back and foster your
Absolutely.
business. You have to work on your
Absolutely.
business.
And ladies and gentlemen, I look at my certifications and the ones that I will be still continuing to obtain. I look at that as part of my training and development. So there's a budget allocated for training and development and certifications through the business. But as part of that, I'm looking at how do I become a better leader? How do I become more proficient in my respective sector? What is changing within retailers' landscape? That impacts the work that we do and the recommendations and suppliers that we recommend for our clients. I do the exact same thing, guys. I tell y'all all the time, I stay a student. I do not know everything, and I don't even sit here and try to front like I do. That's why I have the podcast, so I can be learning and stay a student, to implement the exact same thing, to go research and more. So and I've always done research. So Mark talked about his science background. I studied chemistry. Y'all know that. So I've done pharmacology research, breast cancer research, worked in a pharmacy. I've done research through day in, day out. So research is in my blood. So that's why it's so important to really be intentional, like Mark has mentioned, in reference of the partnerships that you establish, the two-way communication, the leveraging the power of certifications, and understanding that it is a passport, but it does not guarantee you entry. Okay, it gets you there. It don't guarantee you entry, to that point.
Yeah.
So I love that. And so, Mark, as we're starting to round out for today's segment, with Marc Winston Enterprises, you go around, you have speaking engagements. He is a phenomenal speaker, ladies and gentlemen. So if you have not seen him speak, Mark, you need to really upload some of your speaking stuff on YouTube or your website or something, because it is so
Yep.
impactful. And just like you've heard his conversation on today's segment, the Product and Packaging Powerhouse, and he's dropped these gems. He continuously drops gems, but he's really big about advocating and making sure people understand what it takes, sharing his corporate experience to now his own experience, working with NGOs. So with Marc Winston Enterprises, with supplier diversity, you incorporate supply chain and a little bit of the sports. So it's like the trifecta underneath your practice.
Yep.
What are some of the challenges you've seen with organizations and brands working through your consulting practice that you want to share, if you can, high level, of what they can do better or things that they should possibly reconsider when it comes to their supplier diversity and supplier inclusion networks and platforms?
Yeah. When I think about emerging brands or even those who have been in the game 5 to 10 years, or maybe they're veterans, one thing about it, the space is
Mm-hmm.
continually changing. The customer base is
Mm-hmm.
changing. When the customer base change, those corporations, they have to move with the
Right.
customer base. They have to know who their target audience is, just like you have to know who your target audience is. And one thing we see a lot of times with diverse owned companies or just smaller companies, the world now is kind of going to where the language is small businesses is just as important as diverse language. Uh, some of the things we say is navigating the onboarding
Mm-hmm.
process. We talked about the access and the portals and understanding how to be corporate ready or to be big box ready for those
Yeah.
retailers, for those who have a service to be ready to do business with those big corporations. People struggle sometimes with category readiness or meeting simple compliance requirements. And one thing I tell people, there's hidden jewels out there. I'll take Walmart because I'm knowledgeable about Walmart. People don't want to go to the site and dig around. But if you go to Walmart and you dig around, they have supplier checklists. And most companies have supplier checklists where you can go and see what are the bare minimums, what are the compliances, what systems do you need to be able to talk to their system, what are the shipping requirements. Some of them have packaging requirements. Eh, all those things are out there. But the other challenge that I see that is pretty much general across the board is scalability. Understanding that everything is a journey and it's a growth process. I tell people whether you have a product or a service, you don't have to jump off the porch and go big and get into every store that every corporation offers. Start local. If I sell a product, start local. Build my customer base local, statewide, citywide, regional wide. If I have a service, start with 3, 4 companies or people that I work with that I can go out to my community and build relationships with. Learn how to build capability statements to not only inform what you do, but give your plan of execution. Learn how to build your decks to show where you're going as well. So it's the scalability of being able to have my company set where I can do what I do well, but there's room for growth. There's a place for me to say, yes, I sell ketchup, but I also sell this other product here that's very close to it, whatever it is. I clean parking lots, but I also do
Mhm.
painting. I also do some little bit of
Yeah.
renovations. There's ways to add value and be scalable. You have to have the infrastructure set up to where when this company comes to you and say, "Hey, you've done a great job for this year on these two projects. I want to get you to seven." Have you built your company to be
Mhm.
scalable to match the demand of where you want to go? That's if
Yeah.
you want to go there. And then the other barrier that we see a lot of is capital.
Yeah.
It's simply capital. And that hits everyone. It's pretty general. What I would say is this: when you work with organizations like these certified organizations that we're talking about, like the NMSDCs, like the WBENCs, they also have members and partners that are venture
Mhm.
capitalists looking for joint venture
Yeah.
capitalist opportunities. They have access to programs and grants and people who are sponsoring things. They have pitch competitions that are awarding capital. There's a lot of ways to have access to capital through these organizations, or myself, who I've built a network and Rolodex of people who are venture capitalists and looking for opportunities to partner with or to help grow certain businesses. So I understand that cash flow, scalability, category readiness, and compliance requirements are some of the top barriers that people have. And through my practice of Marc Winston Enterprise, through my partnership and other people in my network, and through organizations like NMSDC, we're continuing to create those
Yeah.
resources and tools to allow you to do so. Like myself, I mean, Marc Winston Enterprise, I like to say all the time that I'm bringing real world experience. I'm bringing cross sector insights. I'm bringing hands-on approach to elevate your brand and opportunities to optimize your supply chain and give you that peek behind the curtain of what big box and major corporations are looking for. And I have a lot of partners that I can partner with depending on what the need or the ask is. But those barriers that we talk about, whether it be capital, whether it be scalability, or just category readiness, those are things that we want to
We
approach.
okay. We're gonna talk offline about your services for my clients because, to your point, the biggest barrier I've seen through my practice with brands for packaging is the compliance, and so we saw that was a
Yep.
gap. So now every client that comes through us, does not matter if you're a startup brand and you're just working on your first product, your product label has to be compliant because there's so much that has
Yep.
changed in this landscape, and retailer requirements have changed from Walmart, Target, Ulta, Sephora, Amazon, all the platforms to big box brands. Compliance is non-negotiable. And I tell brands that.
And e-commerce,
All of it.
like it is
Yes. All of
huge.
it. But to your point, like
Yeah.
those barriers definitely prohibits a lot of brands from moving forward or the scalability because they don't have the capital. And they're like, well, I have to be very lean in my approach. And it's like, true. So what's one thing we can work on first? And I tell brands, that come to me, they're like, I would love to work with you. But I'm like, you know what? Your compliance is needed before packaging. So let's work on the
Yeah.
compliance first. Then it'd be an incremental phase approach for the next iteration of packaging. Don't come out the gate thinking you're gonna have the most top elite packaging that there is when you don't have no money.
Yeah. Yes.
No, like
Yes. So true. And like I said, it's sometimes it's a crawl before you walk. Perfect what you do, so you can have the ability to show those venture
yeah.
capitalists and show those corporations, hey. And sometimes there are programs that will invest in you or give a penny now to get a
Hmm.
nickel later
Hmm.
from you, just because you do great work and because you have really, I guess you could say, become a SME, a subject matter expert
Yeah.
in what you do. And so, when you foster your relationships and you work on and in your business, and you continue to grow and add value, I believe those relationships you come across will see you. And when the opportunity presents itself, you will be ready to take full advantage for someone who is looking to advise, advocate, and advance your company
Hmm.
or brand. And to me, that is why I do what I do. That is why I wake up every morning and show up for those opportunities to do
Boy, Mark
just
be
that.
coming through with these alliterations, doesn't he? Okay. Like, but they're impactful words, and it's so true, and it's really a testament to who you are as a person. Because, like I said, we go way back. So Mark has been consistent since I've known him,
Yeah.
so I can advocate for him that what he says he truly means, and he stands on business 10 toes down, as we say. So, I appreciate you sharing these gems with us, sharing it with me too, because you've given me some tools and gems to think about for my business as I'm growing and evolving as well. So I definitely appreciate you, Mark, and the knowledge that you shared here. And so, as we're wrapping up for today's segment, we're going to get into our featured power round. So, if you've been rocking with us, we do a lightning speed of 90 seconds fun, fast facts that we ask about our guests. And so, Mark has shared two fun facts with us, and one that I did not know. So we mentioned one of them at the beginning
Uh-huh.
of the episode, which is he currently coaches youth basketball. So I love that. And he has 250 hours of music stored because his alter ego is DJ Wizard. Okay. Okay. So he talked
Ah,
about marathon is a
oh,
sprint. So of course we got Nipsey Hussle that we've definitely playing. I'm gonna definitely play that today because it is a
mhm.
marathon and not a sprint. But we're gonna put 90 seconds on the clock, and we're gonna ask some questions with Mark and see how many he can answer in 90 seconds. So Mark,
Oh
you ready?
my gosh.
Look,
I'm
I put you
nervous.
on your
Let's go.
toes. So you ready? Let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay, so since your alter ego is DJ Wizard, what is your hype track that you listen to before a big keynote or a panel?
I think what I listen to the most is Mystical.
Here
Here
I
I
go.
go. It's something about that that just kind of makes it like it's about me. Here I go. It gets you bouncing and it makes you about you. I love a mystical. Here I go. Boom, boom, boom. Okay,
Okay,
yeah,
run that back. I'm gonna add that
that's
to your
me.
playlist today too. Okay, so since you coach basketball, you are the Phil Jackson coaching your all-star team. Name your top pick starter roster.
Oh, my top pick, Anthony Hardaway, Shaquille O'Neal. That's my point.
Okay.
That's my center. I have KG as my
Okay.
power forward. I have Michael Jordan at my two. I have Larry Bird at my three. I have a very two-way
Okay.
team. I'm big, I'm long, I'm athletic, and we can really stretch the floor and pound you
I
inside.
don't even think
Yeah,
kids know who
I love it.
KG is, but that's gonna be a topic for another day. Okay. Um,
That's the reason I wore
okay.
21.
So, what's your favorite post-game ritual after with your youth basketball team?
Uh, After a win, it's getting in the car, turn the music up, and have that
Okay.
thing rocking. After a win, we party, we celebrate. After a loss, I'm usually taking time to reflect on what I could
Oh,
have done better. I'm the coach that's like, hey, let's take 24 hours and just reset because I'm probably upset. I don't want to say something that I shouldn't say. After a win, let's turn up. After a loss, let me go back and process what we could
okay.
have done better.
And okay, bonus question. So, name who this person is. He is the president of Reebok basketball.
Shaquille
Okay.
O'Neal.
And for those who, I was about to run off some more stats. So he has a net worth of almost $500 million. He's the president of Reebok basketball, and his alter ego is a DJ too. He goes by Superman. So the similarities between y'all playing basketball and also the alter ego with music, I was like, he should get this hands down, no problem.
Yeah, for sure. I think one thing about Shaq, he's a
Yeah,
true
he is.
mogul. And I can't speak for Shaq, but I can speak for myself. My sports history, my sports experience has formed the man I am today. The one word I think about is
Hmm.
resilience. In sports, you learn to adjust in real time. And whether you're down at halftime or you're adapting to a new opponent that you didn't get a chance to
Yeah,
scout for, that mindset has helped
yeah,
me in business. Pivoting strategies, staying disciplined, playing the
yeah.
long game with clients and with partnerships. I talked about it takes time, being a marathon, not a sprint. In consulting, I teach leaders how to build that same muscle, especially under pressure. And you learn through sports that, you have to stay strong, committed, and be
We
resilient.
And with that, we have to be resilient to make sure that we're being intentional with the relationships that we leverage and harness because our net worth is based upon our network. And so, as we're rounding up for today's segment, Mark, let everybody know how they can get in contact with you, hire you for your services, book you for speaking engagements, coach their youth basketball team, whatever it is. How can they get in contact with you?
Yeah. So my email is Winston. That's MWINSTON Enterprises Winston Enterprises at yahoo.com. I can be found on LinkedIn under Marc Winston. That's Mark with the C, Winston like that old cigarette. You can find me on Facebook with the same Marc Winston. You can find me on Instagram at underscore M. Winston. I'm out there. There's not a lot of Mark with the C's and Winston like the old
Hey, because
cigarettes out
Mark is
there.
the
So
champ here. The champ is here.
hey, it's Mark the French way. You
Yeah,
know, it's the French way.
Mark. Okay.
Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, you have
Yes,
heard from
indeed.
Powerhouse Marc Winston, and all of his information that he just shared is down in the show notes for you. So, all you need to do is just scroll down in your platform, hit the links, and you'll be navigated to those respective platforms so you can get engaged with Mark and be intentional about this connection too. Okay. Don't just come on there and be like, hey, no, let's be intentional about these connections, okay? Because he dropped some gems with us today. He gave us a whole masterclass on the power of access and scalability, how you can leverage certifications, and his own background and how he helps brands be intentional and properly positioned through his company, Marc Winston Enterprises. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank y'all so much for rocking with us here on the Product and Packaging Powerhouse. I'm your show host, Megan Young Gamble. Make sure you do follow, like, and subscribe to our platforms, and make sure you give us some love. We love the ratings that y'all give us on the platform. So just go ahead and give us a 5-star rating. Let us know the takeaways you got from this episode. We read every single email, and it truly means the world to us to see you all rocking with us, supporting us, and listening to our featured powerhouses. So thank y'all so much for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next segment.